Do-do-do. What's going on? Alright, let's see. Welcome to the big show, Patrick. Guys, we're having, flat open, I would say. Like, the market's up like 0.2% this morning, which is nothing. Especially with the volatility we've been getting lately. Right now, we're stuck in, just like the horror's box over here. We're like in range, essentially. We tried to kind of have like a breakdown, and we pop back up, and we've been just kind of laying around here around these lows. So in general, look, we are getting lower highs and lower lows. But we didn't make a lower low on this one, right? We kind of recaptured this lower low. So if we start to make higher highs over here and curl our way back, we may get a little bit of an oversold bounce. We are, at kind of running at like a 20 stochastics. And oversold, overbought doesn't mean anything without some context, right? You still need charts and the pattern to set up the way that it wants. But it looks like overall we have a date with the kind of 200 SMA over time, but we may get a little bit of a bounce or just stay in range. One thing that can happen is you can work off an overbought, oversold condition from just sideways action, right? Time can also heal. So right now we're going to kind of trade what we see, but for us last week too, even with the ending with 3 red days, and most of our money that we made was on the short side. The gap down shorts were really working, and they were following through last week, which is awesome. Like a couple earnings seasons ago, we could have nailed one of those to save our lives. And like this one, you're starting to get that really, really clean follow through on them. So, that's where at least my focus will be for, the coming week or so. But let's talk a little bit about, what's got earnings out today. I'm watching this plan. This plan's got a breakout to all-time highs. You can see here, this is like an IPO stock. It's a new issue from 2018. Software infrastructure. Software's been hot. Tech's been hot for, a good chunk of the year. If this can hold its ATH, then I think we can start looking at longs on this thing, so kind of watch that kind of 42, 41, 41.50 zone. If we start to build patterns or show some type of ORB, I think that'll be the spot to look at. Now, this is a stock I've actually not traded before, so I don't know how it moves. And, every stock's got kind of its ebbs and flows and the way it kind of flows throughout the day. Every stock has its own personality. This one we haven't traded before, so that'll be something I have to keep in the back of my head. Like there are some stocks that we trade all the time. So like if you see a PR or something on a stock like a Roku or something, for example, we trade it all the time. So I may even come in just and take that thing the first candle or the first minute because I know like the characteristics of how it follows through. This one I don't know. So you have to, when you don't know, you have to literally wait for your pattern to show up. Like you can't preempt your pattern, because if you do and you don't understand how this thing flows, then it leads to just kind of an unnecessary stop out. SeaWorld is this. I wouldn't give this a grade A breakout, but you are coming out of kind of like a zone from November of last year. So you got kind of like an 8-month break of range here as you're getting over this trend line. You have room till give or take up to 32. It actually does have it can move when it wants to move, and you've got like still a decent trend over here over the last year if you're looking at its weekly. The issue on this one, there's not much volume flowing through on it in the pre-market yet. Ideally for me, I want to see 50,000 or more, which we're seeing, but I really like to see more than that. Like I want to see them flow around and start moving around. In general, though, a lot of these type of names, like say a SeaWorld, it's just not like well known enough, at least in the trading circles, to really get like that kind of crazy intraday pre-market volume. Momo's gapping up today on earnings. They had their earnings out. Net income, revenue tops, forecast. We'll see how this one acts. You know what? Sometimes these things get like big pushes in the Chinese names, and like because they're at least we saw this with a few of these. They end up rolling over because the charts are just so dusted and People are looking at, like any type of pop as a liquidity event to get out of their shares. Now, it may not be like that. Sometimes they do follow through, but we'll have to watch our levels here. Like if it can hold over the 9, then you may have room to kind of build up over here. But like if it like pops over the 9 EMA and then like rolls back under, then that'll give us a sign that this thing is just, it's going to get sold off. Now, the gap isn't that big today, so, it's not like a gimme. Like, if this thing had gapped up 25% today, I would have just said, let's short this pig because everybody's going to sell into it. At 6%, that's nothing, right? It goes down 6% every fucking week these days. So not as much of a gimme in terms of doing an opening gap reversal. Opening gap reversals are, number one, very, very tricky because they can be counter trend to the intraday action. And then the second part is like, they got to be sometimes a little bit obvious because, a lot of people are going to try long that thing. What's up, Bruce? How you doing? Hassan, how you doing? Reef, what's going on? Pragnesh, hello. And then we got NTNX on the watch list. This thing's already starting to kind of trend its way down. I like this one, though. We'll see how much kind of volume and liquidity goes into this bad boy. On the upside, in terms of like non-gapper stocks and stuff like that, this ARWR has got a really nice chart and a breakout. Like you're really busting loose to levels it hasn't been in years, right? So if you go back, like this old highs from 2014, which is, quite a bit of years ago. It had some sick range yesterday. That's what I want to see. Like, I want to see stocks that have the ability to move $2, $3, $4. Because if they could do that, then it's easy for us to day trade the ebbs and flows of it, right? But without range, we can't do that. As day traders, right, we have multiple patterns we take at the open, right? We have ORB, quick pullback buy, red to green, green to reds, right? Midday, we're doing flags, VWAP plays, 20 EMA pullbacks, end of day, day-long consolidations, so on and so forth. So you need the range back and forth to be able to do all the different patterns. Ideally, right, I want to hit something at the open, and I want to shred it again in the midday, and hopefully I get an end-of-day play on it, so that's going to require some action. Pins was cruising yesterday. It did a little sneaky Friday move. Had a slight volume pop, nothing too much. The issue is going to be how it kind of reacts around this 9 EMA. I'm just going to kind of set a mental alert over here. If it starts to get over 26.14, I'll start looking at this one for a potential long. If it stays under, I'm not going to take some kind of goofy flag pattern while it's, under resistance. I mean, that's like a surefire way of just getting kind of shaken out of a position. So really let it confirm. Watch your levels on multiple time frames, right? If you're just looking at one time frame, you're not going to be able to see the hidden levels of supply that could come in or come out of a stock at any given moment. Roku still, it's getting overbought for sure. It's probably got a date with 100 at this point. I wouldn't chase this thing on strength at all because you're on day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. So this would be day 5 of the move, right? So when you're on day 4s and day 5s, they're overbought. So what happens is you can't hit them on strength. If they show flags or some type of flat top breakout, something along that end, and you're trying to chase it up on strength, that's where the shorters come in or the shakeouts happen. But oftentimes, with big momentum stocks, if they have intraday flushes or they open weak and you get a nice range towards the bottom, then you can hit them on bounces and they actually work really well as they kind of work off that overbought condition. So when you're on day 4, day 5, if you get big flushes, then watch for 1, 2, 3 patterns and stuff to catch the reversals. But don't chase it on strength. So I still like Roku. I want to be trading this thing. I just need to be hitting this thing on dips, right? I can't be chasing this thing higher. This SE had earnings out a couple days ago. We're starting to have just a really low volume orderly pullback. I started watching what I want to do with these kind of stocks. I want to see if the bottom of the breakout bar holds. If the bottom of the breakout bar holds, then that's where I want to start really looking at these things for potential entries. And then Tesla's been actually a really good trader for us on the short side lately. you're still bear flagging here as long as it kind of holds under 200. It's got a really good range. I know it's a little bit expensive. Some of you guys don't like it, but frankly, when you're having like stocks with $10 range, you could trade 50 shares, 100 shares of this thing and still like shred, like, right? You can, if something can move 10 points, don't worry about how many shares you can buy. If you buy 30, 50, 100 shares back and forth, I mean shorting, you still make, you can still get what you need to get out of it. You don't always have to trade, right? A $2 stock to get going. And we're still watching the ZM for a bounce. The tape on this has been just awful the last few days. But anytime a stock is pulling back, the intraday action stinks. That's just how it goes because we have a recency bias. Once the thing starts to turn and you start to make higher highs and higher lows, then what you'll start to see is, right, the intraday price action start to feel a lot more bullish. You'll start to see kind of thrusts coming where they're supposed to come. Versus when something's pulling back, what happens is like it'll look good for 2 minutes and then the bottom just drops out and you're like, ugh, like why did I do that? Well, that's because, right, it's in just a pullback phase. So once you start to make higher highs, higher lows, you start to take out some levels, that's when you'll start to see the intraday price action start to heal itself, and you'll start to see a reversal in how traders are reacting to levels on that stock. So that's always something you have to keep in your mind. Are we in a pullback? Are we in a pullback zone, or right? Are we in a bounce zone? Because in a pullback zone, a lot of times you may see strength and you're like, oh, it's over the VWAP. Like I'm going to take it long, and then it'll get dusted out. That's just the nature of trading and how, right, the recency bias kind of gets us in terms of the price action. But the overall picture of the stock is still really nice. So, you can always roll with that. I know some of you guys want to be trading this OTLK. It's probably got a date with 3 at some point in the 3s here. It's gapping down quite a bit today, though. So, the only way I'd be really hitting this if it started around and do like a 1, 2, 3 pattern, and then you kind of preempt a red to green, and then BIOC's kind of push in here. You may run into the kind of 175, 180 zone. Not really. That's not my cup of tea on this one. It's not as clean. I think actually OTLK looks a little bit cleaner, but in the end, they're both turds. MDJH, let me see. So this one, like, it's not going to do just enough volume for you, so I'd probably leave that one alone. I do think APHA actually does look good. I would add this to the list too. You know what? I didn't even have this. I think these Canadian names sometimes don't show up, but this one does have a nice base breakout. I'd roll with that one. You can definitely. I'll put that on my list too. Good Reef, good find, brother. Let's do what we got to do, guys. We had a really steady week last week. We didn't really have any hiccups, so let's try not to screw up. And you know what we got to do? It's Monday. It's showtime. It's ho time. Let's go do what we do. All right, friends.